I have stories to share from my childhood home, including the shadow man that haunted my sister. But first, a bit of history and some general stories from the house to help set the mood for the type of things we experienced. The house was built in the 40s or 50s as a duplex. My grandparents bought it in the 60s and my grandpa converted it into a single-family home. My parents then bought it in the 90s when they moved out. When we moved in, I was 8 and my sister was 1. Family members from all 3 generations mentioned seeing shadow figures and things move in empty rooms. My mom specifically told me she heard voices growing up and knew appliances would turn on and off in the kitchen like someone was playing with them. A key thing to know is that the basement was left partly unfinished. There was a half wall that ran the full length of the house to keep dirt on one side, but otherwise it was exposed to the earth beneath the house. I think that is where the source of the energy came from, if you believe that kind of thing. And now some spooky stories. This one was told to me. I was 3 or 4. Mom, Grandma, and I are in the dining room. They're doing whatever and not paying too much attention to me. After a while, they notice I've been talking to someone. They turn to see me waving and saying bye-bye to someone in back room past the kitchen. But no one was in the house except us. When visiting, would sometimes see the cats wake up from napping, hiss, and leave empty rooms. Sometimes the dog would stare and growl at empty corners. Then we move in. I'd smell the strong scent of a cigar randomly at night. I heard voices when everyone was asleep. I'd sometimes hear loud banging from the basement, like the dryer door being slammed shut over and over. Sometimes the basement felt fine. Other times I'd be filled with so much dread that I'd rush back upstairs and refuse to go down there for days. This happened randomly for the whole time I lived there. I moved out when I was 19. There were 2 instances that happened specifically to me that have stuck with me over the years. The first instance. B8 and we just moved in. Mom organized a sleepover with some kids from school. She thought a camp out in the living would be a good way to help me feel like the house was ours now. The living room light had a dimmer switch. Turn the light super low so the living is in a warm glow, that way kids can find their way to the bathroom. We're all in sleeping bags and falling asleep one by one after watching a movie. I'm the last one awake because something seems off about the room. A shape in the hallway catches my eyes. It looks like a kid about our size is squatting down and looking through the doorway at us. Think at first it's one of my friends being weird. Count the heads in sleeping bags, nope, everyone is here. Lay there for what feels like hours just staring at this shape. Pretty sure I even saw it move like it was shifting its weight while squatting. Eventually fall asleep. The second instance. Jump forward in time, I'm 14 or 15. My bedroom is a small room attached to another, larger room that is then connected to the hallway. The larger room was my gaming room because that was cool as a teenager. Futon, all my systems, a mini fridge, the works. Anyway, it's summer and I used to have a fucked up sleeping schedule. It's 4 AM and I'm waiting for something to download on my Xbox 360. Decide to lay down in bed to rest while it finishes. Cat is asleep by me. Lay there for a bit and then suddenly hear the sound of someone running in the other room. It's fast but small, light steps. Sounds like a kid is running from the hall, through the room, and then stopping right at my bedroom door. My sister would have been 8 or 9 by this point, so I think it's her. Go to get up to see what the fuck she wants at 4 AM. Turn to look up to see no one at the doorway. Look into the room. It's empty and my door is still shut. Cat heard it too and is hunched over on my bed. Fur on her back sticking all the way and she's hissing. Cat refuses to go into the room. Think that I either dreamed it or was just super tired and imagined it for whatever reason. But if that was the case, then why was the cat freaked out? try not to think about it and go back to playing video games until dawn. Ready for the shadow man, whatever else was there seemed more fixed on my sister. She turned 5 and developed this behavior of not wanting to sleep in her room at night. Wouldn't go in there to play once it got dark. She'd fall asleep on the couch, parents would move her to her room, and she'd wake up in the middle night to back out into the living room to sleep. This went on for a few weeks before my parents tried to figure out why she didn't want to be in her room. She told them that she didn't like it because it's scary. Few more months ago and my parents tried multiple things to try to make her feel safe in her room. Night lights, a TV, staying in there with her until she falls asleep, etc., but she never stayed in the room for the full night. Eventually they had us switch rooms. This worked for about a week before she was back to the old routine. A little bit before she turned 6 she mentioned how the closet was scary because the shadow man lived there. The closet didn't have a door, it just had a curtain hanging down it. She talked about how the shadow man always peeked through the curtain and watched her, which she didn't like. But I slept in that room for years with no problems. Parents had us switch rooms again. This time they painted the other bedroom in bright colors and figured the change in scenery and being away from the closet would comfort her. It worked for a bit. But in a matter of weeks she was back in the living and mentioning that the shadow man moved rooms too. Other room closet actually had a door on it. Parents tried to tell her that there was no shadow man and that no one could peek through the door. She'd tell them that she could hear him in there waiting for the door to be opened. Remember one night she was actually in her room with all the lights on playing. Our mom went to put clothes away in the closet and my sister ran out of the room crying because she saw the shadow man escape. She developed night terrors after that. This went on for about another 1 to 2 years. Parents were at their wits' end. They talked to a doctor and a child counselor trying to figure out if there was something else triggering her nightmares and behavior, but no one knew. The kicker is our family was Catholic but had been reluctant to do anything or acknowledge anything on a supernatural level. They were afraid of getting involved with something demonic or something. There were crosses in our rooms but it didn't seem to stop the shadow man from walking around the room, according to my sister. Our mom finally approached our priest about what's going on. He suggested blessing the room, so our mom does. My sister said that only angered the shadow man and her night terrors got worse. Stranger things started occurring more around the house that everyone noticed. More movements from the corner of your eye, cats would get scared randomly, get super uneasy feelings when passing a dark room like something was waiting for you there, stuff like that. Mom went back to the priest. This time he came over and blessed the whole house. Things seemed to have gotten better upstairs. But in the basement, the banging got more frequently and the dread happened more often. Pretty sure they trapped whatever in the basement. But at least my sister could sleep in her room again.